Everyone knows the answer to this one. Camels store water in their humps. It's one of those facts that gets repeated so often in so many classrooms that almost nobody bothers to question it. There's just one problem. It's completely wrong. Cut open a camel's hump and you won't find a single drop of water sloshing around inside. What you'll actually find is up to 35 kilograms, nearly 80 pounds of dense, solid fat. No water tank, no hidden reservoir, just fat. The same basic tissue sitting on your own body, just concentrated into one distinctive-looking bump on the camel's back. So if the water isn't in the hump, where is it? And how does an animal survive weeks in the desert on almost nothing? The real answer turns out to be far stranger and far more impressive than the myth it replaced. Let's start with that hump, because it's not useless. It's just misunderstood. When your body breaks down fat for energy, one of the natural byproducts of that chemical process is water, released internally as the fat molecules get metabolized. This is called metabolic water, and every mammal produces some of it, including you. But a camel's hump represents such a massive, concentrated fat reserve that when it's broken down during a long trek across the desert, the water released this way becomes a genuinely significant part of the animal's internal water budget. That's very likely where the whole myth came from in the first place. People saw camels surviving without drinking, saw the hump shrink as the journey wore on, and assumed, reasonably enough, but incorrectly, that water itself must be stored right there. Now for the part that actually explains most of a camel's desert survival. It's blood. Nearly every mammal on Earth, including you, has red blood cells shaped like a round, flattened disc. That shape works fine under normal conditions. But severe dehydration causes blood to thicken, and thick blood packed with round, rigid cells starts to flow poorly, straining the heart and risking dangerous blockages. A camel's red blood cells are shaped completely differently, flat, oval, elliptical, almost like tiny stretched capsules rather than discs. That shape lets them keep flowing smoothly through narrow blood vessels even when the surrounding blood has become thick and concentrated from extreme water loss. The more remarkable part shows up the moment a dehydrated camel finally reaches water. A severely dehydrated animal might encounter a watering hole and drink somewhere around 200 liters, more than 50 gallons, in a single sitting, in as little as 10 to 15 minutes. For almost any other mammal, taking on that much water that fast would be lethal. It would rush into the bloodstream, dilute it catastrophically, and cause the surrounding cells to swell and rupture in a dangerous condition called water intoxication. A camel's oval red blood cells simply don't have this problem. Research has shown they can safely swell up to 240% of their original volume, absorbing that flood of water without bursting, then gradually release it back into the body over the following hours. Round human blood cells would fail dramatically under that same stress. A camel's blood cells are built, quite literally, to expand and contract like tiny flexible reservoirs. Next, there's the question of temperature, because staying cool is usually where an animal loses most of its water in the first place, through sweating. Most mammals, including humans, keep their internal body temperature locked within a very narrow range and rely heavily on sweating to hold it there, which burns through water fast. Camels do something almost no other large mammal manages. They let their own body temperature drift up and down over the course of the day, tolerating an internal range roughly between 34 and 41 degrees Celsius, about 93 to nearly 106 degrees Fahrenheit. In the cool early morning, a camel's body temperature drops low. As the day heats up, its body is allowed to simply warm up right alongside the air around it, rather than immediately triggering a sweat response to fight that rise. This single adjustment dramatically cuts down how much water the animal needs to spend on cooling itself throughout an entire day. Camels have even been observed huddling close together, specifically to help regulate this shared body heat, and resting on their sternum in a particular flattened position that allows extra air to circulate underneath them. Even at the cellular level, camels seem built for heat in a way most mammals simply aren't. Laboratory studies comparing camel blood cells directly against human blood cells found that camel platelets kept functioning normally at temperatures between 43 and 45 degrees Celsius, conditions that would already be damaging human cells. In some tests, camel platelets kept working even at a scorching 50 degrees Celsius, while equivalent human cells suffered real, measurable damage. This isn't just one clever trick. It's an entire biological system, tuned for heat, all the way down to individual cells. The kidneys play their own quiet, essential role in all of this. A camel's kidneys are extraordinarily efficient at reabsorbing water before it ever leaves the body, producing urine so concentrated it's almost syrup-like in consistency. Where most mammals lose a steady, significant amount of water simply through normal waste removal, a camel's kidneys hold on to nearly everything they possibly can, treating water as far too precious a resource to let slip away unnecessarily. Even the animal's physical shape and structure work in its favor. Long legs keep the bulk of its body raised well above the ground, away from surface sand that can reach scorching temperatures far higher than the surrounding air. Wide, tough foot pads spread its weight evenly across loose sand, preventing it from sinking with every single step, which would otherwise cost enormous amounts of extra energy and, in turn, water. A thick coat of fur, especially across its back, acts as insulation, blocking a significant amount of external heat from ever reaching the skin at all, functioning almost like a portable, built-in layer of shade the camel carries with it everywhere it walks. So here's what's actually happening. Underneath that one persistent myth about the hump, a camel surviving the desert isn't relying on a single clever trick, hidden water reserves or otherwise. It's an entire, tightly coordinated system. Fat reserves quietly releasing water as they're broken down for energy. Blood cells engineered to flex and swell without ever bursting. A body temperature deliberately allowed to rise and fall with the world around it, instead of fighting a constant, costly battle to stay fixed. Kidneys wringing out nearly every last drop before it's ever wasted. And a physical shape built quite literally to keep the worst of the desert's heat at arm's length.
The hump was never the secret. It was just the part easiest to see and easiest to misunderstand. The real story was running the entire time in the animal's blood, its temperature, its kidneys, and its skin. An entire integrated survival system evolved specifically for an environment that kills almost everything else that tries to cross it.